been a while since I watched this show, but man, this Keith David's voice still giving me chills. Like it's like the first time I've ever heard it. So join me as we shake off the stone and then get ready to get refreshed on the first season of Gargoyles. Also, I know we got a whole different thing. We're not gonna get into it right now. We'll get into it at the end of the video. Let's just get through this, and yeah, I'll give you an update at the end of the video. So roll the intro. Season 1 starts by showing us a current 1994 New York City before flashbacking to a 994 AD Scotland. Scottish, you know? I can't, that's not a good Scottish accent. Okay, we're moving on. Castle Wavern is being attacked by Vikings at dusk. We get a shot of a Viking scaling the castle. His hand sits at the base of the gargoyle just as the sun dips below the earth, giving life to the darkness. The Viking looks up in terror as we see stone breaking away to expose a living, breathing gargoyle. And here's when we get the legendary Keith David's first line as Goliath. I'm gonna try to do this as good as possible. You are trespassing. I can't even. No. Roll the clip.
Trespassing.
Going back and watching this scene after like literally years, still it gave me chills. Like I don't even know. Go get a refresher on this. Go watch this because ooh. Oh wait, hold on. What was that, Pestino? Ooh.
All right, let me explain. Hold on. Let me explain.
Such a good show. We are shown a couple of other gargoyles and then a fight scene of them fighting off the Vikings. You know what I mean? Humanity is still humanity. The Scots are still scared of the gargoyles and treat them like beasts even though they just saved the castle and them.
I took the liberty of asking them to appear and be recognized for their bravery.
Captain, we are most seriously displeased to allow beasts in the dining hall.
You speak wisely, Princess. These are unnatural creatures. No good can come from associating with them.
Goliath stays humble and knows the humans only fear what they don't understand, so he chooses to protect the castle no matter what because that is their home. So Goliath has been asked by the captain of the guard to leave the castle because he states they deserve better, but in reality he's basically betraying the princess. While Goliath was out, that's when the betrayal happens. The Vikings are let back in, and then they destroy the gargoyles that are stone, and then the rest of the castle, civilians, I guess, are technically taken prisoner. So the reason Goliath wasn't there is because he kind of pushed too hard on the enemy territory. He went too far in without backup. Daylight came, he turned into stone. That's when they came over to the castle, took out the freaking gargoyles. That's when he gets back at night and then vows revenge for him. He saves the princess, but the Magus does not know this, and the Magus is basically like the mage of the castle. He ends up putting a spell on the remaining gargoyles, but he can't like undo this spell. So Goliath tells him, well, put me under the same spell. And the spell is basically like, if you guys will sleep until the castle rises above the clouds, which is, at that time they were like, this is never gonna happen. Fast forward to 1994, New York City, where we got billionaire David Xanatos, my boy. I hate him, but I love him. You know what I mean? He buys Castle Wavern and actually lifts up the castle and transfers it to one of his buildings in New York City. He's looked into this, so he knows what the spell was, and he's like gonna break it or whatever. So he basically buys the castle, brings it over to New York City. They raise above the clouds, and that's when they awaken, come back to life. We're introduced to a few other characters, which we'll talk about later, but from here, the gargoyles must now learn to live in modern times, 1994, after being asleep in stone for like over 1,000 years. So that's just the like basic plot things to get you caught up and get you refreshed on gargoyles. Season 1 was produced by Walt Disney Television Animation and released on October 24th, 1994. It originally ran on TDA, otherwise known as the Disney Afternoon. Come on, anybody else? Hey, I haven't heard from you all. You know, we're not gonna get into it. I haven't heard from you all freaking day. Don't start. Anyways, so I'm gonna butcher these names, so just bear with me throughout this episode. I'm sure I'm gonna butcher pretty much every name in the entire refreshers like category going forward, so just bear with me for eternity. Greg Wiseman and Frank Parr are the program creators and producers, but they also had extensive help creating the show from their writing team, specifically Michael Reeves and Brian Chandler. Greg worked on a few other Disney shows before moving on to other works like Spectacular Spider-Man and Young Justice. Frank Parr worked on other shows like X-Men Evolution and Batman the Animated Series. The lead character design was Greg Guller, who also worked on Darkwing Duck, among other shows. There was also assistance from the legendary Kazuyoshi Takeuchi, who worked at Disney Animation Studios Japan. The show ran for 3 seasons, however the 3rd season is not considered canon. Greg has stated that he completely ignored season 3 while working on the Gargoyles comic that was published by Dynamite Entertainment. Gargoyles was something completely different in tone than any of the other shows airing at that time. It had a lot more of a darker theme / horror aspect to it. Now, I purposely didn't get into the voice actors because I wanted to save them for the next part, which of course is the characters. Okay, let's just get this out of the way already because we already all know. This show has Keith, the legend, David, voicing our boy Goliath. Now, come on. I'm a huge Halo fan, so I already loved Keith as the Arbiter, and then going back to get a refresher on a show that I realized also did the same voice for another huge character was just so gratifying. Like, how did I even not put 2 and 2 together? Like, I don't know why I didn't even think about it. And then going back and getting a refresher, I was like, bro, I'm sure they go into a lot more history on Goliath like in season 2, but for this episode we're just going to be going over strictly the information they give us season 1. Goliath is the young leader. He's the biggest of the gargoyles. He's bulky, and he keeps pretty much everybody in check. Hudson, who is voiced by the late Ed Eisner, is Goliath's second in command and previous leader to the group. Well, I guess to all the gargoyles. There's an episode in season 1 that shows how Hudson gave his leadership role up to Goliath. It's also worth noting that none of the gargoyles have names in the show up until Hudson names himself while talking to Detective Maza, which we'll get into who she is later, about the Hudson River. He refers to himself as Hudson, which leads to the other gargoyles giving themselves names. They all obviously choose names that have something to do with New York, kind of like Bronx, who's voiced by Frank Welker. He's the gargoyle dog. I think he's referred to as the watchdog at some point in the show. He's mostly by Hudson the entire time, but there are episodes where he's out with the other crew, or out with the other gargoyles basically. Frank Welker also did the animal noises and the speaking voice for Nibbler on Futurama. Lexington, who is voiced by Tom Adcox, is like the smartest of the crew. He's the first to like pick up on tech and then also on how things work in New York. Tom Adcox also did voice work for Young Justice and Twisted Tales of Felix the Cat. And if nobody remembers that show or wants a refresher episode on it, let me know in the comments down below. Broadway, who is voiced by Bill Fagerbakke, is the eater of the group. The first fight in the series literally shows Broadway just eating, but he is a force to be reckoned with. Like, he a big boy. When I first heard his voice, I was like, hold up, why does this dude sound so familiar? Of course, it's also Patrick freaking Star. This is the same guy who voices Patrick Star. Like, wee woo, wee woo. Okay, sorry. Anyways, so Brooklyn, who is voiced by Jeff Bennett, is kind of like the squad leader of the 3, Brooklyn, Lexington, and Broadway. I think his design stuck in my head the most because like I always remembered him wearing the freaking leather jacket and the sunglasses, and he's like a gargoyle, which I thought was hilarious. Jeff Bennett also voiced Petrie in The Land Before Time, and he also voiced Dexter's dad in Dexter's Laboratory. Demona, who was voiced by Marina Sirtis, was Goliath's partner and absolutely hates human beings. Like, She hates humans, which, you know, I kind of get. She has some good moments in the show, but I'll just leave it at that because I don't want to spoil too much for like her character and her like character development throughout the show. For anybody who wants to go do a full rewatch, which I highly recommend doing. She also plays as Deanna Troi on multiple Star Trek series, and she's also voiced a bunch of other roles throughout her career. So she's amazing. Now that all the gargoyles are out of the way with, let's get to the main humans of the show. Elisa Maza, who is voiced by Sally Richardson Whitfield, is a New York detective that bonds with the gargoyles and pretty much helps them in modern New York City. Her and Goliath connect almost immediately after she's saved by him. They both have a similar sense of justice and have that protection mindset. Sally Richardson Whitfield has played several big roles in her career, like Angela from Low Down Dirty Shame, and she's also had a quick but big role as Zoe Neville in I Am Legend. That's, you know, our boy's wife, if you don't remember, who had a tragic helicopter accident. All right, now the next person on the list is David Xanatos, who is voiced by none other than our boy Jonathan Frakes. David Xanatos is the villain of the story, but like he's also one of those guys that are just kind of like too cool to hate. I don't know how to explain it. Like, you got to go back and watch the show. He's actually really cool. The first season doesn't go too much into the history of Xanatos. We just know he's pretty much very, very rich because of his family wealth. I don't think they mentioned anything more than that in the first season. However, Pacino did take forever on this script, so he could have remembered incorrectly. We all know Jonathan Frakes, but for those of you who do not know, he played Riker in several Star Trek series. You may have also seen the Paranormal Borderline memes videos, which are honestly like the best. So, Future Gino, roll it. Roll it! What am I doing? Rolling it? What do you mean, roll it? What do you mean, roll it? Like this? Oh, hold on.
Have you ever walked out of a mall into a huge parking area and realized you'd forgotten where you parked your car?
Ever gone mountain biking?
What do you want to be when you grow up? What's the right tip?
Have you called a plumber to your home lately? How superstitious are you?
How much money would it take to make you spend a night in a cemetery? Would you display this as a trophy? Do you have a pet? Do you have a sweet tooth? Do you believe in the power of a curse?
Have you had your hearing tested lately?
Planning a trip soon? Can you remember the tallest man you've ever seen?
Do you love to go a-wandering beneath a clear blue sky?
Have you noticed what big stars real estate agents have become?
Are you careful with your personal records? Does your computer ever seem to have a mind of its own? Have you ever visited a Chinatown section in a major city?
Have you ever visited a flea market? You ever visited a truck stop? Did you ever have a job as a waiter?
Have you noticed how many successful restaurants are theme-based these days?
Have you ever had the desire to write your initials in wet cement?
And then finally we get to my favorite character, Owen Burnett, who is voiced by Jeff Bennett. Yeah, that Jeff Bennett from earlier, same guy. He's David Xanatos' right-hand man, and he's just a straight-up G, and he pretty much handles everything on behalf of Xanatos Industries and Xanatos while Xanatos in prison for like a good chunk of the series. So he has this really cool sparring session with Xanatos, and he straight up kicks his booty. Like, there's not even a competition. It's probably the episode that really made me like Owen Bennett even more, because like, dude, this guy's a straight up G. Like, it's probably like literally one of my favorite scenes from the first season. So you guys definitely gotta go check the show out. It's freaking awesome. There's a lot more human characters in the show, but for now I'm just gonna keep it like, you know, pretty vague, just so that way people can like, who want to go back and watch the show will like get into it and everything like that. It's really good. I highly recommend it. Like I said, I haven't watched this show in forever, and when I actually went back, I was like, oh my god, there's just so many things I picked up on and everything like that. So yeah, go check it out. And now we are into the extra section. I call this the extra section because like most of the time while I'm doing research for these shows, I always find like just these little interesting tidbits or facts, if you will, about the show in general. Shout out to all the different websites that helped me gather some information, like All Ages of Geek, GargWiki, Screen Rant, and others. I also say that because like some of these facts that I find are a little interesting, if you'll say the least, so take them with a grain of salt. I don't know how true they are. It's the internet, you never know. So Greg Weisman had actually planned a crossover between a show that he was working on at the time called Disney's Atlantis: The Lost Empire, where Demona would be introduced into the series in an episode called The Last. However, the series was canceled, although it was pretty far into development. It was so far into development that they even brought Marina Satiris in to do some vocal tracks for it. Some of the hardcore fans out there have found some of the storyboards and have synced some of the audio tracks with that. just for like, you know, visuals. And then some have even went and created new animations based off of some of the stuff that they'd found, and they've shown it at conventions. A lot of the Gargoyle show was influenced by Shakespearean themes, which can be seen throughout the show, especially the first season. Supposedly at one point the Gargoyles were actually going to transform into humans during the day, but that idea was scrapped for the whole stone transformations, which thank God, because I think it looks a lot cooler. And plus human gargoyles, I mean, well, we're not gonna get into it because that gets into season 2 territory. But when you get there, you'll get there and you'll know. But yeah, just anyways, I'm just glad it was scrapped because we got the iconic like stone transformation, which is just super cool to like, you know, see their claws dig in and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know. I like the stone transformation. I'm glad they went that route instead. There was a convention that was held every year called Gathering of the Gargoyles. It started back in 1994, but sadly it ended back in 2009 for reasons that I don't know. I didn't delve too much into to find out why. They actually still have the website up, and it's to help keep the memory alive, which I think is totally awesome to do for the community. There's also been 2 other conventions that happened since then for the 20th and 30th anniversary of the Gargoyles, but it was in a different state. It was ran by a different company, I think. If anybody's actually ever been to any of those conventions, Gathering of the Gargoyles, and would love to share their experience, I would love to hear more about it. So I mean, please feel free to comment down below. Let us know how it was, what it was like. I mean, I've been to conventions, you know, but I can't even imagine being in a convention in like 1994. There was a Gargoyles video game that was released back in 1995. According to Wiki, the game loosely follows the plot of the TV show. Loosely. You play as Goliath. You would pretty much fight Vikings that would appear from the past somehow. I don't know. I never played it. You also fight robotic enemies from present New York City. Obviously, it's probably Xanatos's. The game was released on Sega Genesis and had a planned release for the SNES, but was canceled. Nintendo actually has a remastered version that you can play like right now. Like, you can go get a Switch, take your friend's Switch, take your brother's Switch, take your sister's Switch, take whoever's Switch, pull up, search Gargoyles, which is what I assume you would search, and the game would be on there. So you can go play it right now. Now, the ratings aren't the best from what I've heard, but I mean, you can still play it. If you're just a huge fan and you want to check it out, go check it out. I think it's only like $15 or something like that. I don't remember. It's 8 or something like that. It was nothing crazy. Although it is Nintendo, so I wouldn't be shocked if it was like $40. There's also another fact that I saw online. I actually didn't write this down, but it's still in my head, so I kind of wanted to let it out because I was like, it's pretty interesting. I don't know how true this is, but supposedly Patrick Stewart was going to actually voice Goliath, because if you notice, like, a lot of the characters in the show were ones from Star Trek New Generation. Is it New Generations? Anyways, it's they're characters from Star Trek, you know what I mean? Like, you have our boy Jonathan Frakes. He comes out in Star Trek. So there was a rumored deal that like Patrick Stewart was gonna end up being Goliath, which would have been crazy. I'm glad they went with who they went with, obviously, and I think looking back on it, everybody can look back and be like, yeah, Goliath's voice couldn't have been done by anybody else. But it's crazy to think that we could have also got a Patrick Stewart voiced Goliath. And I'm actually curious to know if there's any like, you know, recordings out there of him trying to do the, you know, just the voicing it. That'd be crazy to see or hear, actually. So do not AI that. I swear. Anyways. And we finally arrived at Aftertaste. So that way I can finally tell you guys how I pretty much feel about the show. I'm not going to hold you at all. The show has so much lore, so much history. I could literally go on forever. If you want to see that, hit the like, hit the subscribe button. Let me know in the comments down below. Just be like, hey man, we want to see more of this. Let me know. Anyways, so I'm basically only trying to go over the first season, but when you get into seasons 2 and 3, yes, I did quotation marks there because 3 is technically not considered canon by many of the mainstream community, along with the creators. But when you get into seasons 2 and 3, like the lore, like the history, they just start expanding. So like I said, if you want to see more, if you want me to get into the second season, maybe even third season, just let me know in the comments down below. I got you. I highly recommend going back and checking out this show though, just for the first season. If anything, it's only 13 episodes. It's not too bad. It's such an amazing cast. They did such a great job. The character design. If you do, I bet you, I'm guaranteeing you, you're almost going to start the second season like immediately after like I did. And if you do, come back here and let me know. This show is amazing. I'm so happy I actually got to revisit it. I got all those nostalgic goosebumps after hearing Keith David's voice as Goliath again after so many years. Like, I had literally pretty sure I'd like forgotten that. Like, somewhere subconsciously I remembered it, but like hearing the voice again, I was like, oh, like the chills just happened. There's still so much fan love for this show. Like, the creators still love the show. I mean, Disney is not going to let anything like this go to waste. They know that there's money bags there, so I expect to see a revival in some shape or form, whether that be a live action series, or who knows, maybe they're going to go down the route like X-Men 97. I mean, the X-Men 97 revive went so well, I say why not give a new creative team a shot, as long as they have like the old creative teams like consent and all that kind of stuff. I mean, this universe is so massive, so hopefully we'll get to see something more. Maybe we even get to hear Keith David as Goliath once more. That would be awesome. We can only hope. But yeah, I just want to say appreciate y'all for staying. The show is amazing. I think everybody needs to go back and just do a rewatch of at least the first season, especially if you liked Gargoyles or had it in your past. You know what I mean? It was something that I went back and rewatched. I was like, wow, there's a lot of like dark tones there that I didn't understand as a child, but like now as an older person, you know, I'm like seeing it. I'm like, whoa, like the whole gun episode, like there's a gun safety episode in there. It was pretty dark. It was pretty crazy. I think that one's a really good one to watch. But yeah, stuff like that. So I say go back and watch it. It's an amazing show. They did an amazing job. Also, for everybody who stayed here, of course you're gonna get the bloopers, but I also just wanted to say I appreciate everybody who stuck around with me. I know it's been a little bit over a year since I last uploaded. It's been a journey. Obviously, I have a whole new setup for the time being. There's a lot of stuff going on, but I just wanted to say I'm glad to be jumping back in. I've missed this, you know what I mean? I love this channel. I love what the idea is behind it. There's so much nostalgic stuff, so stay tuned. We got some ideas for the channel coming up. I don't tend to take a break again anytime soon. We'll see you guys around. Bye bye. While Goliath was out, that's when the betrayal happens. The Vikings are let back in, and then they destroyed the Gargoyles. The Gargoyles. All right. Season 1 was produced by Walt Disney. We all should know our boy Jonathan Frakes, but for those of you who do not know, he played Riker in several Star Wars series. Oh my God, I said Star Wars series. I'm gonna get roasted. No comments. Okay. All right. We're gonna do thumbnails. Ready? How do I want to do a gargoyle pose. Okay. I'm not quite sure what the reason is. You know what I mean? It could be, like, you know what I mean? You don't know what I know. What I know. You know? I know. You know? You know what I know. You know? You know what I know. No. You know? No. No. You know? No. 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 Anyways, all right. There were 2 other conventions that were held for the 20th and 30th. All right. Go ahead. Alright. Something like that. Stupid. I'm stupid. I'm stupid. I'm stupid. I'm a stupid idiot. Alright. Why was I running out of breath when I said that? In 7 days, I want you to bounce.